Hi, I'm Hannah. Welcome to Theology Therapist. Today we are peeling back the layers on millennial mental health challenges, identifying the struggles, spotlighting societal pressures, and sharing resources for a brighter tomorrow. So let's jump in. In a world that is more connected than ever, the mental health of an entire generation is reaching a tipping point. Today, we are peeling back the layers on millennial mental health challenges, identifying the struggles, spotlighting societal pressures, and sharing resources for a brighter tomorrow. This is Theology Therapist. I am Hannah. Welcome. Let's jump in. For millennials, the dance between ambition and reality isn't new, but now it's more intense. The Deloitte Global 2021 survey reveals increased stress and anxiety amidst the pandemic. Societal expectations weigh heavily, especially on millennials. Social media fuels perfectionism, turning every post into a comparison trap that can deepen the despair. Excessive screen time on platforms that promote false realities can lead to a deteriorating mental state. Increasingly, more and more millennials are struggling with anxiety, depression, ADHD within the US specifically. So today we are going to dive into the barriers that millennials face in mental health and discovering resources that can make a difference. Whether you're juggling work, education, or professional life, you're not alone in this journey. Some of the challenges that millennials are facing today are really the balancing the job stress that comes from ambition and being really goal-directed, from being a generation that was told that we could be anything that we wanted to be, to feeling completely dissatisfied and unfulfilled by our careers. Millennials are also struggling to balance the career of what they do with also making a living, making a decent living. So even if you love what you do, you might not make enough to live depending on where you live in the US. Millennials at this point are one of the most educated generations, and that means that as a millennial, you might be juggling work, you might be juggling working while going back to school, or pressures of getting a higher education, or deciding whether or not you can make school work for you. Then on top of all of that, juggling your personal life and trying to balance the challenges that present in normal day-to-day life of adulting, of relationships, friendships, aging parents. And all of this combined together is a lot to handle. Today, we want to name these challenges, that these are things that are a lot of pressure. It is a lot to actually have all of this working and working well for you, and to find some resources that can help you while you're in the midst of this. Some of the things that make these challenges feel much more intense are the societal pressures that accompany that. As millennials, specifically in this generation, are becoming more and more educated, they are choosing to either not have children or delay the age at which they have children. And so one of the things that really influences a millennial mental health is, specifically for people who identify as women, is the biological fertile clock, really, of working for really like a decade in many instances to pursue your education, then get out in your career, and then you need to really start your career. So that's going to take about 5 to 10 years, depending on the field you're in. And then you're in your 30s, and all of a sudden, shoot, I'm feeling that biological clock ticking, and that need to, if you're considering having children, the need to speed things up. If anything, the need to just think about it, right? Like maybe you decide not to, but if anything, the need to just consider having children is an extra added weight, because you might be in a relationship with someone who is in a similar career spot. You might be single, and like now all of a sudden you're thinking about your biological clock, but also needing to think about, oh, where am I going to find a partner for that? So, which leads to a lot of things, which leads to what I've seen a lot of women do recently, millennial women, is freeze their eggs. So then again, we are presented with another stress and social expectation that a millennial woman in this situation is really having to navigate at this point in her life. Oh my gosh. Then we have the ladder of success, which if you've spent a really long time, 5 to 10 years, or really more like 7 to 10 years on your education, and then you are starting into the workforce, the career success you have is likely going to be really important to you, because you've spent so long and so much money probably pursuing that degree. And so you are then going to enter into the workforce and the work field and have to strive and work really hard to move up the professional ladder. And that just presents a whole host of issues that come up of, do you like the industry that you're in? Do you like your company's culture? Do you like this job at all? Do you feel fulfilled by it? Do you want to work remotely? Do you want hybrid? Do you want to be in the office? There are so many things that come with moving up the professional ladder. And then there's really just that question of what's enough? What is enough for you? When it comes to finances, when it comes to career, like when would you feel like you have not arrived, but when would you feel content with where you're at? And do you feel like you can be content even if you're still journeying through the ladder? So one of the things that I see often in millennials is this quarter life crisis. What used to be that midlife crisis where you thought of a white middle-aged man with a sports car and a young woman rider in the car with him, right? Like that used to be the idea of a midlife crisis. But now it's really anticipated in that it's happening in 25, 30, 35, this quarter life crisis of who am I? What the heck am I doing? What am I doing here? What makes life meaningful? What is life about? I see that so much in my private practice. People who are really asking the question of what makes life meaningful and who am I? And because of the prevalence of social media, we have this idea of the perfect life. We need the perfect home decor and the style interior design and the nice car, the great job with the title and all of the newest gadgets, or be attending all of the trendy gyms and spas and doing all of the things. And honestly, that's just like a lot to juggle. That's probably more for any one person to juggle is possible. Pairing all of the things that millennials just by like phase of life are going through, plus the expectations that society places on them, and that the expectations that millennials have grown into themselves for like this idea of the perfect life, or what that perfect life looks like. So then let's really talk about how being constantly connected and comparing ourselves on social media can escalate our stress levels. This, I think, is so undervalued, or this is one of those things that I think we don't talk about enough because we're just all so addicted. But actually, I hear now of more and more people, often millennials, who are switching out their iPhone for a flip phone. And I will tell you myself, who I am a millennial, that I often choose, I try most of the time, but I will admit that I don't always. I tried to do social media fast over the weekend. I use social media for my work. Here we are. And so I'm not really often able to do that during the week, but during the weekends, I try my very best to do social media fasts. And I will tell you, I am so much more content and at peace and confident. Like, I feel more confident in myself when I do a social media fast versus during the week when I'm using social media. And it's not even a thing that's conscious. That's the thing. It's not conscious. I think that we have this idea that we can control it. Oh, I just won't let it. And it's not created that way. Like, it's created to do this to us, right? It can cause so much additional stress on top of what you're already juggling. I worked with a client once who came to me because they were in university and were just saying that they had so much anxiety, but they had so much lack of motivation. They procrastinated everything and they felt really insecure about their body. We worked together for a while on this, and we were really trying to discover what was the source of that negative body image to determine, is it a trustworthy, a reliable source of information on this belief? And lo and behold, the source of the body insecurity beliefs came from social media. And it came from accounts that they were following and ads that would pop up. And after this client that I worked with started putting a lot of restrictions, like, you know how you have on your phone, and apps themselves will allow you to put in restrictions so that you can only access them for so much time and so many different for so much time or different hours of the day. And after doing this for maybe a month or two, they were ahead in their schoolwork. They had significantly less anxiety, and they didn't feel self-conscious anymore about having a soft belly or like maybe some rolls. They didn't feel self-conscious about that anymore. They felt confident. And that was just after we reduced social media access. It's crazy how differently we feel when we aren't connected to these platforms that promote false identities and comparing ourselves to others. So I just want to talk to you briefly about some resources that you might find to be helpful. Like I said, there are restrictions in Apple that you can use to set time limits on apps that you use around how long you use them and the times of the day that you can use them. And then I'm going to include in the description below hotlines that you can call if you're in crisis, if you need that. There are going to be links to therapy directories if you are looking for a therapist. Some of the things that can really help with just managing the challenge of being a millennial in this world today is seeing a therapist and having that person in your corner who can help you work through some of these things and maybe find what it was for me and this client, working together over time, we realized that these beliefs and the impact of these beliefs were showing up in her life because of social media. Working with a therapist can actually give you that kind of result as well, of those things that you're not even aware of. You can then become aware of them. And that's important because then you can do something about it. And I'll just say, in my own practice, I have a private practice based in Texas, Florida, and Massachusetts. And the clients that I work with there are often, we meet in a moment of crisis, and then we work for a kind of a long period of time. It'll be anywhere from a year to 3 or 4 years. And we really develop a relationship together where we care about each other, right? And we're able to, through that long time work, move out of crisis and into growth, where we are recognizing those patterns that show up in their life. And then we have the time together to where they can really work to implement some of these things. They can change and see the transformation in their life that they're really looking for. I know that in a time of need or in a challenging moment, finding the right resources can be really daunting. And so I've compiled some of these below in the description for some of the most effective things or the most supportive things in a challenging period or in a crisis moment, so that you can have these resources at your fingertips. Now, when you are in a challenging moment, not only is it important to know what those resources are that we just talked about, but it's important to practice self-care. And self-care isn't just going to get your nails done or going to get a massage. And while those things are really nice, they aren't actually true deep self-care. True deep self-care is being so in touch with yourself that you really know what you need, what your being is asking you for, and that you're able to be with it in that need and deliver that if possible, when possible. And when it's not possible, to still be with it, right? That's really self-care. And so one of the ways that you can do that is through meditation. There are lots of different kinds of meditation. There are lots of different ways to meditate. I am in a 2-year meditation teacher certificate program right now. And so there are a lot of different styles and goals of meditating. And I think one of the biggest hurdles that I hear from people that keeps them from starting is this: not good at meditating. Oh, I've tried it before, but I'm not good at it. Or, oh, my mind just always, my mind doesn't stop, so I'm not really good at it. And I hear you, I do. And that's actually the moment of meditation. When you realize, oh, I've just been going through my grocery list. I'm back to my breath. That's meditation. And that's the kind of self-care that happens in those deep moments of challenge, when you recognize that there's a need and you might have been doing this, that, or the other to distract or numb yourself or avoid that discomfort. And then you can come back to that need and to be with you. Wow, that is self-care. Some of the apps that I've tried in the past that I like is Headspace. You've probably heard of it. I think it's a great entry point for meditation. They have probably the best sleep section that I've tried, in my opinion. 10% Happier is a really great app. I think that I have found it useful for maybe more advanced or level up meditation. Right now I'm actually trying one called Chani. I believe that's how you say it. And it is a little bit more woo. It's a little bit more spiritual. The meditations are behind a paywall, but it seems to be a really cool company. I'm currently on a free trial and I can report back about that if you are interested. So if you're interested in that one, then leave me in a comment below. But the organization itself seems really cool, and I'm currently liking the meditations. Some other pieces of self-care that can be really supportive are exercising. I don't just mean running marathons or losing weight. That's not what I mean. Moving your body. So sometimes that might look like Tai Chi. It could look like Qigong. It could look like strength training. It could look like dancing or yoga. It could look like a million things, going on a walk, but moving your body. Journaling. I'm not a great journaler, but I do understand that it is supportive. What I like is creative journaling or art journaling. So find what works for you. I think that's what's important. Find what works for you, what resonates. I've mentioned before, knitting is really one of my primary coping mechanisms. And so be creative. One important thing, since we're talking about challenges related to millennials and societal expectations, is just being aware where you spend your time and how you spend your time. Maybe just keeping a time tracking journal for a week or so to see where you're spending your time at. And is that where and how you want to be spending your time? So that if it's not, you can then set some boundaries around that and be spending your time in a place that is life-giving. Nurturing yourself and practicing true deep self-care isn't selfish. Remember that it is vital to nurturing your mental well-being. Some of the things that we have talked about today are how millennials are really positioned in this interesting moment in history and in life, age, because of the things that they are striving for, be it relational, career, educational. Like, there are a lot of these really big things that take up a lot of time and energy in the lives of millennials, and the societal expectations that are placed on millennials. So whether that's family planning, whether that's career success, whether that's finding the right relationship or having the perfect life that looks great on social media. There are a lot of these normal life challenges that are intensified by societal expectations. And so as a millennial, it's really important to practice a deep sense of self-care and to utilize mental health resources when you need them. Sometimes mental health can be stigmatized in different communities, in different cultural or religious communities. And I would encourage you to start talking about it with your friends and maybe mentioning your therapist or the YouTube mental health person that you watched. In that way, it normalizes that more and more in the community that you're in. Remember that it is important to take care of you. It's okay to reach out. Join us next time by clicking subscribe and hitting the bell for notifications to join us for more insightful conversations about mental health and well-being. Until then, stay strong, stay hopeful, and I'll see you next time, friends.